Last week saw the absolute most DQs in any specific RCI race. Tempers flared. What will happen today when we strap 30 plus cars on a bull ring? Perhaps a little bit more of that. Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Lee, joined by Ryan Mawson and Stewie in the box for round two of this brand new Night Out Championship. Mawson, it was a messy week one, and already tonight, we've seen multi-car accidents in the corkscrew. I think it's going to be one of those seasons.
And with 39 cars, 39 cars on probably one of the smallest tracks of the season and one of the most difficult to keep consistent as we see the 533 Sir Williams off. I think we're going to see this plenty more. Those sausage curbs, they take no prisoners, but qualifying is going to be at a premium, and the race, if something happens in the corkscrew, that is always going to be a recipe for disaster.
It sure is. Well, let's go ahead and talk about it while we have a few minutes before qualifying starts here. Yes, there are pros and AMs on the track at the same time, racing for their own championships respectively. Tell them apart, of course, by the different color behind their number. But as we said in the intro, 5 disqualifications in round one, and the stewards tell me 2 of them were because 2 different drivers intentionally crashed other cars. Unheard of.
Very much so, and obviously the stewards coming down with great force on that. It's always frowned upon, I would say, but you've got to, as a driver, you've always got to keep your tempers about you, no matter what happens. It's got to keep your head down and carry on. The stewards will see it, even if we don't see something on a broadcast. It will be punished, and it will be punished fairly. So interesting to see if it's all calmed down and if it's mellowed out tonight. But I don't think the track is going to be very calming and soothing to the drivers. I think if anything, it's going to be another tempers flared race as people jockey for positions up and down the grid.
Strange for me to hear that Laguna Seca, not a fan favorite among the drivers or indeed a lot of the people watching at home. I've always really enjoyed it. I think the racing ratchets up a notch here because it is sort of a bull ring affair, one of the shortest laps you can have in ACC. And add to the fact now that you have 2 classes on the racetrack, it's going to be very tough to make passes in traffic. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first seasonal race we have with the brand new BMW M4, unless I'm very much mistaken. It's going to be interesting to see how this particular car gets around here in anger, but I am being told that the Monday champ's already been as well. Do you have any information?
Well, on in the Monday, as I'm calling it, the M4 GT3 Cup, we have
Ah,
plenty
yes.
of those. But it's the first time it will have run in anger at Laguna Seca. There's a lot of people sort of milling around this car. It is the new thing in the 1.8 update, and a lot of people saying it is very quick, very powerful, and some people say broken. But we've already seen on the Monday Championship as Jonas Savalainen takes the alternate line out of the pit lane. We've seen, though, that BMW can be beaten. It's just interesting to see what you do, because the track that we saw on Monday was Imola. This is, a completely chalk and cheese to Imola. So I think it will be Dylan Tan, who was the winner of last week's race, to take us around the first lap, and we'll see what it can do. I'm expecting the low, the fairly low, is it 123, I would say, around here.
Yes, indeed. Dylan Tan did exactly what they wanted to do at the fastest lap, the pole position, and they won the race. Max points day for the Beep McLaren driver. No horn in this car, but we'll be wishing they had one today. About halfway at the race, I reckon they will be knee-deep in traffic. All the drivers making their way out of pit lane. There is no segregated qualifying here. 39 cars, as Ryan Mawson told you earlier, all on the track at the same time, all qualifying, and Tan will be among the first to get a lap in, crossing under the bridge and starting their very first timed lap. quickly, as we get qualifying underway here, Mawson, we talked about the M4 being a bit of a dominant car. The McLaren 720S had the same sort of characteristics, being one of the favored cars, or the meta cars, if you will. Well, there was an update earlier this week that put VOP on both the McLaren 720S and the new BMW M4 GT3 car. We're going to see live right here just what that's done to them.
Yeah, and from what I read, it was an aero update, which both of those cars, both the BMW and the McLaren, being one of the newer cars on the grid, they both relied heavily on downforce. The McLaren always kind of felt more like you're driving a Formula car, very low to the ground, very small. I mean, you can see just how low we are, basically sliding along the floor. BMW being the latest of the latest in GT3 technology from BMW, that once again it had all sorts of trick aero to it. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it is. Driving style looking at the first lap from Dylan Tan, though, doesn't look like it's changed much. You still have to really trust in the car's ability for for the speed, and that is a 121.7 to even kick us off. That is absolutely blazing.
Dylan Tan put everybody on notice in week one. There was a lot of drama, none of which involving the 141 car. That is pretty much how the front row looked like on the podium a week ago. Tan first and Juna Savalainen second, nearly half a second off. And there completes the trifecta. Samir Foch finished third a week ago. He's third in qualifying here. And they have pretty much replicated the podium from a week ago. 11 minutes to go in qualifying here. As we continue to get going, we say our very first hello to all of you in chat, wherever you are in the world. We hope that you're having a fantastic weekend. We thank you for spending a little bit of it with us on a Saturday night. We were not live a week ago. Some of you will have noticed we were away on other duties, but we are back this week as Billin in 183 has to hit the eject seat on that lap. That will do them no good after qualifying provisionally seventh. Sir Williams here in the 533, the Jux Motorsports car, trying to get up the hill. Very tricky sequence of corners, that left-hander, all the way up to the corkscrew. The corkscrew, I suppose, Lawson outshines all the other corners on the track, but for me, it's the left-hander before the corkscrew that is actually the most infamous on this course.
Yeah, the fast left-hander up the hill, you have to be fully committed, and it is very much a blind corner with a massive sausage curb on the inside. It's probably one of the most rewarding corners when you do clip it just right. You run out onto the rumble strip, not too far into the gravel, because the gravel here, it is like sheet ice. It just spits your car out, but lovely when you just clip it. But I mean, the corkscrew, you never quite portray it in ACC, and I think in any game really has never got it quite right. But like dropping down two stories of a building, you get a huge positive G, and then huge lateral G, and then huge negative G, all in the space of half a second. It's just phenomenal corner, but one that a lot of drivers struggle with.
I could not have explained that better myself, and I would call the left-hander up the hill satisfying when you hit it right. It's one of those weird pleasures that you get in a race car. It's actually quite difficult to hit it perfect, but if you ever have, and certainly a broken clock is, what do they say? A broken clock is right twice a day. So occasionally I do hit it right. I know exactly what you're talking about. I was going to talk about Wellfling being on provisional pole in AM, but Anton, the winner of round one in the AM class, has since taken that position away, jumped all the way up to 12th position. Wellfling has about a tenth and a half to equal that mark. We'll have to see if that can happen. Saw Madre in the 420. They got a little out of sorts in practice earlier and caused to pile up in the corkscrew, but doing anything of the like here, looking like they're on a quick lap.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the track map on the right side of our screen. I did mention the track, position for qualifying track position for qualifying is going to be an absolute premium. You can already see Madre, he's on a lap and he caught up to traffic.
Oh!
Thankfully, we had an incident like this where it just swiveled off, and this is the 183 Dylan in the Aston Martin. This is what I was meaning, folks. You don't see that sausage curb until you've already committed to the corner. You have to know that you've already turned in correctly. And how many times have if I had at least £1 for every time I've hit that curb and lost a position, ruined my race, etc., I would be able to afford like a McDonald's Happy Meal.
I love it when we say something in the box and it's immediately demonstrated. Unfortunately, at Billings' dismay to that. Reading some of the chat. Greetings from Long Island, New York. Well, greetings to you as well. Ryan Mawson, do you know why they call it Long Island?
No, actually, and you know what? I should have read up about this because I've been to New York once in my life, but I did the usual tourist thing with my family of staying very much in in the center of New York, Central Park, did all that, and then flew out. It was only like a stop off while we were actually doing a cross country trip to Ohio.
Well, it's called Long Island because it's a rather long island. Who would have thought?
See, I thought there was some sort of historical thing that you were going to tell me
It
here,
is.
Jesse. I mean,
It
at
is.
least,
It
at
is.
least,
When we
at
got
least
to
the
Long Island during the colonial days, somebody must have said, "Well, this island's quite long." Therefore, Long Island, it is actually quite long indeed. All jokes aside, Juna Savalainen on provisional pole, a 21.507, a quarter of a second faster than Dylan Tan. Sir Williams has taken the 533 Ferrari up to third place, and Amir Foch in fourth place, exactly half a second off of pole. Everybody else looking to gain times. Dylan there got a lap together in the 183 and went to fifth, knocking Timothy Flamker down to sixth place. Anton in 15th, still holding on to pole in the AM class. Baker now second in AM over Weffling, who are the top three. Now we have Huell in the 548, looking to improve from 13.
Yeah, the times are getting that closer and closer, and what can the 548 do? The Porsche as well. It's I can't imagine that this car is very easy to drive around here, the Porsche, but Huell doing all right, managing to get to 8th place, second off the pole position. But the one good thing about Laguna Seca, even with a short qualifying, you can get many laps in. You've got time to reset to the pits if you feel like you need to, or adjust tire pressures and still get out, still run some laps. And all before the clock ends at that 1 minute 20 odd lap time, we're gonna have a good 8-9 laps to go at it.
I feel like so many times our sort of language that we have qualifying is, oh, you're only going to get about 5 or so laps. That's just not the case here. Robert, by the way, telling us that Long Island is 118 miles long. That is long.
Well, there you go. Maybe we should rename England. It's Long England. We are technically an island. Admittedly, though, it's kind of similar
Long
story.
England.
Long England. There we go. Patent that. This is why I need to be Prime Minister. And these are the hard facts of life. As Pimlot's taking a route into the gravel, what's happened here in the 913 BMW? This is once again, I think, one of those moments. He said, "It's satisfying if you hit it. You don't. Things like this can happen. Turn in, hit the sausage curb, and off you go into the sand."
It's actually quite okay to miss that curb because it doesn't send you into the sand. But if you are chasing that perfection, and everybody here tonight will be doing that, you got to get as close to that sausage curb as you dare. The problem is we've seen several drivers already do it. Don't think that this is a qualifying thing. They're going to be doing this in the race. They're going to be going off as well. Case in point, Estufado there proving my point. If you miss the curb entirely, it's actually better because you stand a chance of saving it. Hit that inside curb, you're going for a ride regardless. So we'll look out for that in the race. It will certainly be a game changer. Samir Fosh third, looking for more, has already improved quite a bit up to third. 1.5 tenths quicker. Is that lap going to be better? It is. A 1:21.695 for Fosh puts him in second place, just about 2 tenths off of the pole time of Savalainen.
And with 2 laps to go, looking on my timing screen as well, you can see the flashes of green. So it is possible, that Samir Fosh can get that pole position. It's just the lap here is so difficult to look up. No matter how many times you practice this track, I feel there's with the huge lateral forces put on the cars going up the hill, down the hill, and corkscrew. Every corner has a chance just to upset your setup, upset your car. Really, really does test if you have a stable setup. As Chris Vining in the 113 Audi goes up to 7th position, 8 tenths off the lead. But for the mid-engine cars as well, I think a lot of these drivers have really got their work cut out. I would want something that's a little bit more stable for some of these corners, but these people are showing us what we can do and wrestling around this course.
Ryan Renoir in a Lamborghini makes a lot of sense to me. It is a third car for Renoir, but we were watching Chris Vining, who's just returned to pit lane. It's still strange for me to see him in that Audi right now.
Yeah, it is though one of those cars where you would think they're very much the same. They are owned by fundamentally the same parent company. They're the same engines, same driveline, but they drive so entirely differently. It is really strange to see. But Renoir in his very trusted Lamborghini. But Chris Vining, these two are still incredibly close. What I want to see in the race. We know and we've seen these two battle before. How is it going to differ in the two cars?
Well, it certainly will. Vining, of course. Oh no, there's been a massive accident. Ryan Renoir has to take massive evasive action. Two cars crashing, coming onto the straight there after turn 3. The 62 is off in what I think we're going to refer to as the hot corner, the left-hander going up the hill. And it's all kicking off here at the end of qualifying. Several cars not getting an opportunity here to run a quicker lap. I'd say about half the cars have already waved the white flag and retired to pit lane. Savalainen just went off in the corkscrew. That will end qualifying for the Kurt fastest qualifier. John Arasser's going to have an accident here coming into turn 2. It's all kicking off. Dylan Tan, the only car that has a realistic chance, goes off in the penultimate corner now. Gets it wound up for the final left-hander and onto the front straight. That isn't straight, mind you. Does Dylan Tan improve here? I think he might have a little something. He does, a 1:21.742, but not good enough to move the needle on the scoreboard.
I think it was just that run wide. He was slightly up on his time, touched the gravel, and that is all it needs. That is the kind of minute mistake around here with this field, with these drivers that can send you from, well, third to pole position. It's just, that is how fine you need to run the line around here. Timothy Flamger, one of the few cars left that managed to squeak it under the line before the flag, as well as being chased down by Alex Rogers. What can these two do? And Alex Rogers actually on the timings board, but this looks like it's going to be a good one. Coming to the line, he might still have the toe of the McLaren in front. What will it be? It will be up to 5th for Alex Rogers, a 1:22.05.
Jaroslav Roth coming to the line, slots into 9th, a nice improvement, moving Vining down to 10th, and that will conclude qualifying. The results of qualifying confirmed on your screen. Savalainen quickest, Fosh and Dylan Tan making up the top 3. And if You are eagle eyed, you may notice nobody has consensus on the purple sectors. In fact, Alex Rogers had the quickest first sector of all there. So that tells me no particular car, no particular driver dominant so far, Mawson.
No, and that is kind of the nature of Laguna Seca. It's just it tests cars and setups so many different ways that not surprising that we don't have any purples.
Well, we have had one race in this championship, and this pretty much mirrors how it went. We told you Dylan Tan got maximum points from round one. He had the pole position, the fastest lap, and won the race. That's worth 39 points. Juna Savaline in second with 29 points, 10 points back. Samir Foch with 25 points in third place. Well within striking distance. Chris Vining, pretty much the same story with 21 points. Sir William rounding out the top five with 18 points. Tyler in the 22 with 15. John Eraser in the 699, who, by the way, his team's named RIP Bimmer. I think that's in reference to the recent BOP. A sense of humor he certainly has. He has 13 points as well. Giannis Tassopoulos in eighth place with 11 points. Madre in ninth with 9 points. Ryan Renoir rounding out the top 10 with 7. Neil Pimlott starts off 11th place with 5 points. Thomas in the 92 with four. Roman Frawler in 13th with three. Hack in 14th with two. And in 15th place, Giorgio Magazi with the single coveted point. And of course, top 15 gets points. Nobody else gets points, which means Ted Edwards, Alex Rogers, Stachecki, Pierce, and Lewis do not have any. These are just more of the drivers that struggled in race number one outside the top 20. Moving on to the AMs, Tio Anton did not have a max points day, but still got the job done. 34 points for Anton. Sam Weffling in second place with 29. Muhammad Kamal Ali in third place with 25. Ricardo Gama in fourth place starts a trio of Portuguese drivers with 23 points. And Estefado in fifth place, driving the number five car, has 18 points. Miguel Martins in sixth place, rounding out the triplets of Portuguese drivers with 15 points. Matt Williams, the other Williams we have in the field this season with 13 points. Matt Young on 11 points. Gerson with nine, and Royal with 7 points. Gallo has 5 points. Watkinson with four. Arnaud with three. I believe he's tied with Rascal there in 13th place. Behind him, Bruno Fantozzi with 2 points. And the number 10 car with 1 point. Of course, that means somebody, you're wondering how there's a tie. That must mean somebody back here got the point for fastest lap or pole position. In fact, I know it was pole position, but had a quite terrible race. Of course, Matthias LePage, Victor Coltrickle, and Daniel Kent don't have any. Well, that's a lot of drivers. We had 49 a week ago. We reported earlier, Mawson, we had 39 in today's race. It was, to say the least, a cluster in race one. I knew it was bad when I got off shift of the event that you and I were both doing a week ago. I was actually alerted by the stewards that it was probably good we didn't broadcast it because it was, well, a cluster. But hopefully things will be different tonight.
Hopefully so. Like I said, you would hope some of the drivers have calmed down and they've collected all of their bolts together and go at it. But this track does not exactly promote the cool-headed, calm, and collected racing. Overtaking spots here are at a premium. and this many cars on the grid. In fact, with so many cars on the grid that pit boxes are actually stacked up. So that is going to make it interesting. When people come into the pits, if there's someone already in your pit box, it's going to make it a little bit harder for people to stop. And the other thing, looking through the points that I think is awesome to see, the amount of drivers we've got from all over the world in this Night Owl season. I think originally Night Owl was made so that the far Eastern Europeans and the Americans had somewhere to race, but now we've just got anyone who doesn't like sleep, basically, just racing in this championship all the way down to Australia on the other side of the world. And one little shout out as well, just because looking through there, I didn't actually know he was in this season. Hey, Joker.
Brian Mawson has found a friend in the field. I absolutely love it. And you're absolutely right. They're doubling up on pit stalls. Of course, there is a mandatory pit stop in this season. And of course, the Night Owl twist is the requirement is always random and is decided once the race server goes live. Tonight isn't too bad. They will be used to this one if they enter other RCI competitions. It is a required pit stop with a minimum delivery of 1 liter of fuel, no tire change required. We would generally consider that the standard pit stop tonight, so nothing too crazy there. But most of these teams will be doubled up in their pit stall, meaning they have share it with another car. Early predictions for this race and Moss.
Early predictions, lap 1 is going to be absolute chaos. I think that's the only way I can put it. But what I'm sort of trying to plan out in my head and what's going to be really interesting is what is going to be the fastest track. When you give the drivers this kind of pit stop environment, as it were, it opens up everything. You see people who will dive in on lap 1, they'll half and half the race, they'll go full fuel and try and make it all the way to the end. I think if you're in the front half of the grid, you probably want to be staying out there as long as possible. But the AMs and for anyone in the mid pack, it is a complete open book. Traffic management here, I think, is going to be the decider of the winner and the loser.
My early predictions, I think Juna Savalainen wants to get the better of everyone up front here. He has to beat Foch off the line. Of course, Savalainen and Foch, absolutely no stranger to one another. They raced each other less than, well, actually just about 24 hours ago in RCI competition. Savalainen will be looking for a slightly better result this time as they flash onto the front straight. And it is a very long procession, 2 by 2, as far as I can literally see around the corner. It's a lot of cars waiting for the drop of the green flag and the lights, and there it is as they come under the gantry, and it's a brilliant start from Juna Savalainen, who gets out clearly in front of Foch, who's all alone himself, side by side for third place. It's a pretty orderly procession, to be fair. A couple of cars have gone off. One has hit the escape road, and still contact happening in the background. Cars hitting the dirt, but only a few accidents there.
You waved yellows to be had in the background, but too wide as far as you can see, as that's the McLaren that is tan under attack heavy from Sir Williams in the Ferrari. And these are, cold tires. They have not come up to temperature or pressure yet. But all of these drivers, you can't really afford to just wait around for your car to be ready. You're already under attack.
Looks like the 37 and the 5 got the worst of that into turn 1. The 183 started from pit lane. Unknown if that was accidental or on purpose. And I can tell you, car number 3 has just reset to pit lane on this opening lap. But Juna Savalainen has got out to a brilliant start. Here's a replay of the start. One car squirting down the slip road for pit out. And comes back onto the track, nearly collecting others. 3 and 4 abreast into turn 1. That is not how you would like to take the Andretti hairpin, but alas, that is what's happened here. As we continue to go back through the field and show you exactly what happened there. Largely, I would say, Ryan, minor contact.
Minor contact, I think for the McLaren driver that had to, take avoiding action, that is just the accordion effect as
Oh!
one of the Audis goes round.
That's Dino Nearjack, I think, in the 18. In fact, it is. Here, they got spun out of the middle there, and that will put them next to last. Is that what happened? And yes, indeed, that is exactly what happened to Dino then.
Gap thought there was going to be there, but sadly that door was always going to close. So, as much as the stewards might have wanted a nice easy race as well, this one after the carnage and the amount of furious penciling that they had last week, I don't think that's going to work out for them this week. Samir Foch and the front runners of the grid, they've managed to break away just about. It's front four, still just about holding on to Jonas Savalainen, and then to the rest of the field following through. But that Mercedes, they're on an early charge. Is Jonas 0.8 of a second already to Samir Foch, and last go under the timing board, that was a 0.7, so it's starting to pull.
I am trying to figure out where the 762 is gone. Bruno Fantozzi is leading the AM class over Baker and Raskell. Wefling's down to fourth, but the championship leading car, I think it's a 762, nowhere to be found. What happened to them on the opening lap? We'll have to update you when we can, but yeah, Savalainen absolutely driving away from Samir Foch. Samir Foch has work to do. He has Dylan Tan behind him, and of course Sir Williams just right behind him, who, by the way, Sir Williams, the fastest lap thus far for the 533 Ferrari. I'm starting to believe Foch might be onto something with his team name. Talking about his specific car, the Ferrari, being OP. Maybe a little bit around here. Let's see what happens. What about Lai, by the way, in the 74 in the top 5? Looking good so far for a lot of these guys that needed a good run.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming back, this is some of the midfield. This is Miguel Martins. That is Joker, who I mentioned, getting caught up with one of the BMWs that went off into the gravel. And that's the type of accident you see all the time here at Laguna Seca. That was actually Neil Pimlott from the VR Racing team. The sand, the gravel here, it just has completely no grip whatsoever. It is very easy to put the car on it, and then you're coming back on the track sideways with basically nothing you can do.
Well, I've seen Anton for the first time. He's down about in 5th or 6th place in class. That's no good for your championship leader in AM. Looks like a recovery drive for them. I didn't quite see what happened to that Bentley, but I know they didn't start in 5th or 6th place, but they're definitely back there now. And we'll have to pay attention to them to see if they can... Oh, is that Savalainen? It is Savalainen! He spun it himself! He hit the curb!
So there you go. Not even the race leader is safe from that. And the 100, he has nowhere to go. He can't rejoin the circuit right now.
Absolute chaos coming up to the corkscrew. Several cars having to dive off the track, crashing themselves. Savalainen's crashed again!
What happens coming up to the corkscrew? One of the Mercedes is up the inside, too wide in, and it gets taken out by the Bentley.
I just don't have words, Lawson. I just don't have words for that. Your leader of the race hits the curb, spins themselves, and then gets tapped again. And that has handed the lead over to Samir Foch, who has Tan behind him. Right up the back diffuser of that Ferrari is the 141 McLaren. That's your championship leader in 2nd place now. That moves Lai up into 3rd in the 74. Alex Rogers in 4th place, and Jaroslav Roth in 5th place right now. And I'm trying to determine who that Ferrari was that went off. That was Sir Williams. That's exactly who that was. The 533 that we saw spinning off in that replay where Savalainen crashed That was the 533 that spun off, and they're down to 18th place.
There was also, if you just about caught it, the 732, the Lamborghini Van Renoir. They were also a part of that spin-off. So it just shows you, you know, not even the race leader is safe from these kind of mistakes. But what I'm gonna hope, Savalainen, he seems to have either amazing luck or just seasons of no luck. I think it was 2 seasons ago. He had a absolutely great season last one, but season before that was just bad luck after bad luck. I'm really hoping that that 100 not cursed himself again. I think maybe he's changed the paint job. You see, what's happened is he's changed away from his purple paint job. He's lost it. You need to go back to purple, Jonas, and then it should be all good.
I still don't know what to say. You and I, we've been broadcasting for a long time now. I've never seen anything quite like that. I was wondering what we would get tonight, coming off of last week's race where we had a record amount of disqualifications. That's not the case here tonight, but we have seen huge championship implications here in the first 10 minutes. But here's the thing, Ryan. If it happened to Savalainen, it can happen to Foch, Tan, Rogers, etc. Nobody is immune.
Oh, and you've got even more of a chance when we start having some traffic management, as once again, that's the 13 AMG off in the background. But as soon as you have to start, you know, dodging around back markers, and when you start, you know, lapping people, that is only going to be even more, you know, pronounced. It's just going to get more and more crazy from here as we have another waved yellow flag at the top of the corkscrew, and that's the Bentley again.
Oh!
That is Theo Anton. 762
That's your
Bentley.
championship leader in AM.
Manages to get the cars back going again, but
They crashed before they got there, Ryan.
Yeah, that was they were already sideways going over the crest of that. My only assumption, it's quite easy. It tightens up at the top of this hill. If you're too wide coming up and a driver moves over, a lot like this line that you see from Dylan Tan, you know, you could easily just end up spinning each other around. I've seen it before, and I don't think that we're gonna, you know, I don't think it's gonna be the last time it will happen.
People in chat are stunned. Don't worry, so are we. And you'd think we've seen this all before, but I think tonight's a brand new one for me. I'm not entirely sure what I have just witnessed. I've seen championship leaders have incidents, and I've seen other people have incidents. By the way, the 3 car, I was told, joined late and then had an incident with another car. Don't know what's going on. There has been a drive-through awarded to Cole Trickle's 666 car, as Matt Artem has gone off, and that's a strange one because we caught it after it happened. Is that at the top of the hill? Yes, no? That is corkscrew. Oh, that's at the bottom of the corkscrew. It is indeed at the bottom of the corkscrew, but the 666 drive-through penalty for taking out the 18. The first of many penalties. Here's Savalainen coming back through. A hip check, a little bit of contact coming to the screw, and that was just about it. But elbows out for Savalainen, who earlier was leading this race.
I think the 414, the incident that they had, and there you go.
Oh.
It was being tangled up again with one of the BMWs, but in the corkscrew. I'm being told that was actually before the incident of the corkscrew. So that might have been what upset the car. Corkscrew, mid-engine car. You've already got a little bit of damage. Balance is upset, and you know the rest is history, really. On board from I think now we can call that furious red Mercedes of Jonas Savalainen, and he will be absolutely desperate to make up for lost time.
Well, for Anton, it has not gotten better. They've just had another incident, I believe, by themselves, but they're nearly at the back of the AM field, and for somebody who came in leading the championship, that's not what you wanted to have happen. It has been just a frustrating 12 minutes for the driver of the 762. and it's not getting any better as we speak. Savalainen back inside the top 20, the fastest car on the track still, making their way through, getting one more position. That from John Arasser there, 699, who you almost feel like they let him have that, if not to cause any more calamity.
Yeah, and I think for Savalainen, he's just trying to get, up into that 15th position and get any kind of points. I said it before in RCI, and, I'll have to say it again. Sometimes you can win whole championships on your worst race, even, just that 1 point. How many times have we got down to doing the calculations as the 34 Magazi is spun around by which Audi is that? Is that the 18 again? No,
That
the
was
18 is
Vining.
yellow. That's Vining.
It was Vining, yeah. Vining got off the racetrack, coming off the penultimate corner, tries to save it here, and just gets into Magazi. Ooh, how do you feel about that, Boston? Do you feel that Vining was still there? Should Magazi have given room? Was Magazi in the right?
In one of those, we'll let the stewards have the final say. But if I was the Audi driver, you've always got to look at a gap, in the big picture. Was that door always going to close? Most likely. If you've gone off the track, especially at Laguna Seca, you will always really concede a position. You just kind of have to, reset the car, reset yourself, and then go after it again. But, in the heat of the moment, what can you do sometimes?
Oh dear. Well, continuing the saga of the 762, Anton, of course, was also involved in that when Savalainen spun out of the lead. Apparently, Anton was trying to avoid the spinning Sir Williams car and spun himself, which compounded his already mounting issues in this race. And he's had two incidents after that to get him to this point. So a frustrating day. Speaking of, Timothy Flamker back in 27th place, trying to get a spot away from the 18 of Jack, and Savalainen already back up to 17th place, getting by Ted Edwards. Wait, is that really Ted Edwards? Is he doing double duty this weekend? He's racing here in Night Owl, and he's also racing in the 24 of Daytona.
Yes, unless I'm very much mistaken, that is the real Ted Edwards. So, you can't tell some drivers, can you? When you say you don't really have to do this amount of racing, but some people are just born for it.
He's in two races. Last I checked, his team was third in his class at Daytona. I don't know if anything has changed live here tonight, but Ted running two different races here. Kind of funny, he's on a team with the race admin for this series as well, so small world after all. How about that? But Ted pulling double duty, looking to get a result here. And I can tell you, somebody who occasionally does pull double duty, Mawson, I can't say do well in one race. It's almost like getting a shot in the arm for the other ones.
Oh yeah, if you've got that motivation, that hype, it just helps you, helps you really rein it in, I think. And especially at Laguna Seca, you're gonna have to have that kind of, G'd up and concentration, because this track is just a monumental mountain to climb. And all this action in the race. Shall I remind you that we have just passed 15 minutes into the race? We've still got 44 minutes left to go. That is including with the pit stops, when people start coming in for that, and when people start lapping. I mean, looking at our race leader, which is the little triangle on the track map on the right side, in case you didn't know, that's how you can tell where the race leader is. They are actually starting to come up to lap traffic. That's the 762. Just about will be in their view soon. And yeah, that's 15 minutes in.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, you couldn't see second place on the track map because Dylan Tan was right under the wing of Samir Foch. That is, of course, fluctuating a little bit. If you're Dylan Tan, knowing that you are racing Samir Foch for this championship, Samir in about third place, it's about, 13, 14 points coming into this day. If Fosh wins, Dylan Tan finishes second. Tan's still your championship leader after 2 races, but you know as good as I do as a competitor, you want to pass him. But what's the strategy here for Tan? Because I feel like if Dylan wanted to, he could have pressed the issue earlier, but I don't feel like he really did.
No, he was, incredibly close to the back of that Ferrari for a long old time. What I'm wondering though is it still could be, a bit of a strategy call. You just don't know what either of these cars are doing hit wise, who's going long or anything like that. Knowing both of those drivers, I have a feeling that Samir Foch will be going long. And that is, an incredibly clean move by Brandon Baker. Around
How
the
do you do
outside
that?
in the braking zone. That is incredibly. It's a lot it's a lot harder than it looks, ladies and gentlemen, because you're trying
Yeah,
to
sure is.
get the car settled and brake and turn and not hit the guy you've just passed.
That was Baker on Ruskell, by the way, and that was for third place in AM, and that was very welcome for Baker. Oh my goodness! I thought surely it's like, oh, there's contact here, surely, but no, he just drove around on the outside. Incredible.
Made it almost look too easy, Jesse. See, this is
Yeah, life's unfair.
yeah, exactly. I wish that I could pull off moves like that, and not end up in the gravel like 6 foot off the track when I think I'm going to outbrake this guy, and nope, oh, you're not. You're gonna go off the track.
Well, the Savalainen Redemption Tour continues up to 16th. Frawler is the next victim here. This is also in class position as well. So it's job done for Savalainen, who has gotten back into the points at least in the 100, but now trying to get more of the same, a lunge into turn 1, which is technically turn 2, but we're not going to get into that tonight because I'm with Ryan Mawson, not Ryan Gill. But I digress. 15th place for Savalainen, and Billen makes contact. And 2 cars spinning off. That was Cole Trickle and Billen who had contact. Cole Trickle's already served a drive-through penalty for spinning a car tonight. That doesn't look like things are improving for that drive.
And there's that type of accident that I said and why I think that exactly happened when we only just caught the tail end of the Bentley and the McLaren spinning at the top of corkscrew. It narrows there, and you've got to be mindful of the car that is next to you, and who you're racing. It is very, very easy to do that and squeeze it off. And there's another, that is Matt Williams, the 370 for the FCR Motorsport McLaren, off in the corkscrew. No other cars that I can see as everyone just tries to dart around as it gets back up to speed. That might have been a self-inflicted spin there.
Speaking of the 370, they were speeding in pit lane. That was a ACC assigned penalty. There was a racing incident on lap 3 with car number 2. A 5-second penalty for car number 2 for an unsafe rejoin, causing avoidable contact. 15-second penalty for car 913, losing control and taking out the 62. And a racing incident between the 93 and the 6. And I can assure you, the stewards are very busy indeed, as we're going to show you a replay of that. And almost synchronized spinning there.
Almost, we could make a bit of a sport about that. I'm sure, the RCI synchronized spinning team. I shall lead it but I can only lead it halfway through a race because that is when I bid it.
Again.
Here is the 666. What's happened here? Is it a touch of the gravel or is it a touch of the curb? It's a touch of the sausage curb, and there you go. Car spins around and into that part. The track is just horrible because it's cambered in. As soon as you've lost it, just a very slow spin and descent into the concrete barrier.
It sure is. It is a long trip, and it's all expenses paid, and there's no getting off. You're going to the wall, rather, unfortunately. We haven't talked a lot about Alex Rogers today, and that's simply because it's sort of in no man's land. 9 seconds to the leading duo in front, and Lai, who's behind him, 1.5 seconds behind. And I mentioned this earlier after practice, and Alex Rogers' team name this week is Rip Dimmies, and that is certainly in reference to the the BOP that they've been hit with this week. Nice to know Alex Rogers in his Aston is having fun.
Alex Rogers, I think you'd never get him out of that Aston Martin. It's a car that just suits that driver. But yeah, having fun of the BMW's expense. I will say though, that back I remember when the Aston Martin finally got a buff and all the drivers were over the moon because it now didn't take 9,000 years to spool up the turbos, and that is Matt Artrim, the 414, into the wall coming into the infield section. Returned to the pits for that. So obviously, too much damage on that car, the driver felt.
We talked about Savalainen's return. How about Brian Renoir's return as well? Of course, we saw Renoir go off himself and now trying to make his way back through the field. The difference is Renoir has completed their required pit stop contact with Ted Edwards. It's a slide, but not a spin. Renoir saves it. Ted Edwards saves it. And that could have been a lot uglier than it was there.
Brian Renoir goes up the inside, but Ted's already started to turn down and commit to the corner. Well, to save that car, though. Normally when a Lamborghini snaps on you, that is lights out. It is game over. You shall be going backwards, but Brian Renoir manages to catch that, keep it pointing straight.
Matthew Royal here has just driven off the track. Now that reeks of a mechanical issue, either in the cockpit or with some hardware, because that was not due to contact there. By the way, further updates, the 93 who was on a podium position in AM, speeding in pit lane as well.
Lots of speeding in pit lane tonight as well, and after the 1.8 update, they did change the pit stop or the pit lane speeding rules. It is a lot stricter now. And I think people are just trying to push it. And, Laguna Seca has that very sharp left-hand turn. But more importantly, the line is a bit tricky to see at times, especially if someone's taken the board out. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing here, is just people trying to shave off any kind of time they can. And it's just coming back to bite them.
The Redemption Tour continues. Savalainen up to 12th place now, as he creeps ever closer to the top 10. A good battle here between Madre and Flamger, I think. As Madre's not going to let Flamger have this. This is, who knows, this could be 4 points. I know it's for 19th overall. But there's a couple of AMs in front of them, and if a couple of more cars have issues, it could be, who knows, for 15th place. So a good defense from the 420 here. Flamger's certainly got his work cut out for him.
What has happened? This is the number
Estefado.
5.
Oh, that's such a danger. That is so smart from Estefado, I just want to say. You don't see that a lot, but that is the smartest thing. I know it hurts having to shift to reverse, but that's the safest and smartest thing you could have possibly done. I appreciate that. Everyone in this box appreciates that. And I'm going to tell you something else. Everybody in that box beside ours appreciates that as well. That is classy driving.
And everyone on the track, we've already seen Corkscrew be an absolute magnet for chaos. You just can't see you when a car is stopped. You can have the waved yellow flags, but you don't know where they are. Are they on the outside, the inside, or straight sideways across the track? It's a scary moment to have a waved yellow flag, but smart driving, reverse off, wait until it's safe, and then pull back on. Looking back, this is an angry train following Huel, the DC Racing 458. He's being chased down. That is that Fralla in the number 6 BMW, I believe? Managed to get by Baker.
Well, I can tell you a couple of other things. Pretty much our entire podium in AM, except Fantozzi, has had issues. The 52 car of Verskell has had a speeding penalty in pit lane as well. as Raphael Huel goes off the track ever so slightly. But pretty much being in a in second and third place in AM today has been a bit of a curse. Fantozzi in the 71, completely unscathed, up to sixth place now. Baker is in second place in AM, but has a 5-second penalty. Ali is now third in the 96, and Kent Young and Narajak are the other cars I can see in AM at the moment. But Tassopolis here looks to be trying to work on the 548 and might get overtaken himself here by Vining.
Here you go, Vining's up the inside, but backs out of the move just before that sharp left-hander. It's one of those there where you've really got to pick if you're going to fully commit to it. And Laguna Seca is one of those tracks where being the middle driver in a battle is probably the worst around here. Any move you make on the car in front, you're giving that critical moment where the person behind you can overtake you, and then you're stuck in the same situation all over again. You've got to really calculate out your move rather than just going for every opportunity that is presented to you, because you might actually find yourself going backwards.
Well, when it rains, it pours, people. Racing incident between the 414 and the 19. A 5-second penalty for car 95 for dangerous driving. Drive-through penalty for car 762 for taking out Juna Savalainen. Racing incident between the 812 and the 5. Drive-through penalty for car 762 for taking out the 812. The 762 has now reached the penalty points limit and has been disqualified from the race. I repeat, disqualification for car 762. That was your AM championship leader. 15-second penalty for car 3 for turning across the 812 under blue flags, causing a crash. Position was returned, so instead of a drive-through, only a 15-second penalty. We saw 5 a week ago. We've seen 1 so far today, and that's not how you take the corkscrew, mate.
I mean, it is a way, but it's quite
bumpy. I mean, you can. You shouldn't. But...
You can, yeah. It's not the advised line, but that might be the line that Ryan Mawar could only take. And what has happened here? There is the 18. That's Dino again. He tapped by the Aston Martin from behind, ending stuck at the corkscrew.
Reading chat as we always are. A couple of people praying that Samir doesn't crash the car. I get the meme. I'm hip. I'm with it. Jamie mentioning there's a few spinners and saying that Laguna proving to be a tough test tonight. I absolutely agree with that. Laguna always a tough nut to crack, and tonight with so many cars, it is proving very difficult indeed. Not difficult for Samir Foch and Dylan Tan, mind you, who are still nose to tail, but are way out in front of the field. Did Vining finally get this move done? Looks like he has the inside, but he's still side by side. Oh, and he is going to, but it won't be without drama as the 778 BMW Tassopolis. Did he make it to the inside wall? I don't know, but losing several positions in the process.
That would have been a very scary moment, I'm sure, for Vining. You know, you can see the car finally snap of Tassopolis. You can see it on your radar and probably see it in the mirrors, just squeaking by the back of the other BMW. And scary moment. And here we go for Timothy Flamger. He's right up to the back of Madre 420, that big Mercedes. But you know, this is the point of Laguna Seca. What do? You've potentially got the run on the car here. There's nowhere that you're going to get through corkscrew. It's just not possible to go 2 cars wide through here, at least without severe compromising yourself. And other than that, then you're back down the hill where it appears Mercedes has the slight edge. Oh, but that being said, that is a mistake. That's a mistake from the Mercedes. Can Timothy Flanger throw it up the outside? No, he cannot. It is defended hard and defended well.
Excellent driving. The lights flashing from Flamger. I don't know it. I don't think that's particularly in frustration. I just think that's tactics from the 19 McLaren more than anything else. It's been a good fight between these two thus far. You know what they say, Ryan Mawson, life is about perspective. I think for a lot of drivers tonight, they're going to be saying, well, this was a frustrating race, and they might even leave with some hurt feelings. Heck, they might not even make it to the checkered flag. We know one driver has won't make it to the checkered flag tonight. You have to wonder how many more will. But life is about perspective. A lot of drivers struggling, but if you are, ooh, big wiggle there for Madre. But if you are Samir Fosh or Dylan, you're thinking this is about the funnest race you've been in a long time.
Yeah, and you can always take away something from a bad race, I find, even if it's, adjusting your lines or how I attacked that person or, just what happened with, a crash that you got involved in or anything. You always have to take something away, and that is how you always improve as a driver. You come back the next week, you do it all again. Speaking of, two up front, this is the view from on board of Dylan Tan, chasing down that Triple Eight of Samir Fosh. This gap has kind of stabilized here, for the longest time, maybe 20 odd minutes ago. These guys were still this lap apart. I think this is going to come down to a pit stop. But will Dylan Tan try undercut? We thought that this car might have been that little bit faster at the start. Is he going to go for the undercut? Hard to say.
Oh dear, drive-through penalty for car 533 for taking out the 699. Racing incident between the 414 and the 140. Racing incident between the 666 and the 100. A warning for car 60 or 699 not holding brakes after a spin. Another warning for car 699 for a dangerous rejoin. Increased to a 5-second penalty because that was the second warning. The same way that two drive-throughs equal a DQ, two warnings equal a 5-second penalty. That for the 699.
So there you go. The stewards' work is not cut out for them today. Looking back on the on the vengeance train, Juven Sabalainen got up to that 9th position, trying to get the move on Tassopoulos in that 778. Probably still trying to get his BMW back in a line after that earlier sort of spin. And that will help Jonas Savalainen up ahead. 113 of Chris Vining being given a drive-through penalty.
He has, but it's not showing up on my list. A warning for car 34 for an unsafe rejoin. A drive-through for car 183 for taking out the 666. I'm being told by my broadcaster it is in here. So there it is indeed. Yeah, the drive-through for car 113. Thank you, Snooty, for that. We're taking out car 34.
This was the race replay. That was the move that we thought he might get a penalty for, where I said the door was always going to close. Well, there you go. Stewards have decided that car shall take a trip down pit lane as he does come into service.
Oh, Ted Edwards!
What's happened to Ted Edwards? He's
lost. Now, that is a truly bizarre accident there. Was all the way on the outside of the course, hit the dirt. The car was wiggling the entire time, ends up crashing towards the inside, and strangely, doesn't come down pit lane.
No, it continues on. I have a feeling that might have been an accident that started, in the penultimate corner. Might have just got a bit loose, gone a bit wide, and was still trying to fight the car back into line, and we just caught the tail end of it, of that Mercedes hitting the wall. It is very much a trial by fire this week at Laguna Seca, and a trial of twisted metal and how much your manufacturer's going to get in bills for spare parts.
Gil Martin's here, trying to gain a spot or two, but will end up visiting the tire wall there. A ill-advised and perhaps mistimed move there. That leads to a couple of crashed race cars. Add that to the list. The stewards certainly will. This is still the battle for first place. Samir Fosh and Dylan Tan have been like this for the drop of the green flag. It was for second place in the first 8 minutes of the race, but ever since then, when Savalainen self-induced a spin, this has been for the lead, and I just get the feeling that Tan is just stalking Samir Foch, hoping and praying and looking for a little mistake that he could potentially use as we go on board with Ryan Renoir, who's looking to make a move here. At a lap car, I think it might be, continues to stalk Fantozzi. Fantozzi, who is the leader in AM, has pitted and is the leader of the AM cars that have pitted. Everybody in front of him in AM now has yet to pit. Oh, a little bit of contact there. Renoir gets clipped. Who was that? Was that Magazi? I think it was.
Oh no, this is interesting. Dylan Tan has already come into the pits. 22 minutes left to run. That is very interesting. If he can get out, looking at the track map, that might actually be quite strategic. If you look, a lot of the cars are all bunched up, you know, on the top right-hand corner. I wonder if he's done that to get some clean air and to try and run faster laps than Samir Foch is doing.
Well, we've had our second disqualification. The 183 has been disqualified for maximum race license points. So here's how it happened. First of all, a warning for car 93 for going off track and completing an overtake, gaining an advantage off track. So a warning for car 93, drive through for 183 for a takeout on car 18 with position not returned. Disqualification for car 183 for reaching maximum license points for a single race. He's not disqualified from the championship, just the race. Drive-through penalty for car 93 for taking out 533 into turn 2, and a warning for car 533 for avoidable contact. So the 93 was deemed to have taken out the 533, but also they gave a warning to the 533 for avoidable contact with the 93. A little extracurricular activity there, I suspect.
Well, there you go. And I don't think that is going to be the last of the stewards, as we see in the background, the Porsche all over the road, sending sparks off the diffuser. That is Huel in the 548, trying to chase down Timothy Flanger and Madre. These two are still going at it, and I think that's actually slowing them up slightly. The Porsche was nowhere in this battle to begin with. And looking behind, that is the leader. That is Samir Foch. How is this going to affect the battle? They will have to let Foch through eventually. These two, you know, are all battling so close. That's probably the worst point when you are the faster car trying to lap. Everyone's battling so close, but you know that you've got to keep going.
Snooty in chat saying a couple of DQs this race, and yes, indeed, there were 5 DQs a week ago. 2 of them, I'm told, were DQs for basically crashing somebody on purpose, i.e. retaliation. And you never want to see that. I don't believe we've seen any of that today, Ryan, but some of the standards, of course, have been slightly suspect, and some drivers have disqualified themselves because of their aggressive nature. Ryan Renoir, speaking of aggressive, trying to go around the outside, himself, oh, that was the earlier contact, in fact. Who had a little bit of a fender there. Nothing gained or lost really there. It was Renoir, who had a rough first 10 minutes of this race. Trending in the right direction here. Speaking of, Savalainen, still the fastest car on the racetrack, and up into 6th.
Yeah, Renoir just trying to get by Fantozzi. That is not a move for, you know, class position as Renoir goes wide into the gravel. He can't defend it though, but that is the 34 going to try the cutback. There's a bit of a touch going down the main straight. Will the Mercedes be able to power past the Lamborghini? Not quite. There is not enough of an overlap, and Ryan Renoir goes back to defending hard. Madre is looking up the inside. It's just not going to happen this lap.
Renoir hard at work trying to keep Migazi behind him. These two, no
There you go.
strangers to one another. They've raced each other quite frequently, I would say. And of course, Fantozzi, who is just up in front here, we suspect will be the leader in AM once Ali and Baker pit. We'll have to see how all that works out. We're still paying attention to Dylan Tan, who was the first of the top three to pit, and didn't really talk about that too much, but I like that call. Your thoughts, Ryan?
I think it was very, very incredibly calculated because it's almost like he knew that the traffic that they were approaching was going to be an issue. Dropped back, came in, did the pit stop early, and I think that's what really is going to save him to the end. It just depends if Samir Foch can
Oh,
keep his pace up, and there goes. I think that's the 18 again. That's the 18 Audi. That's Dino off, and indeed it is.
just lost it here, Ryan. I'm pretty sure. I don't think there was any contact. Just trying to dig off the corner, get everything you can, hits the dirt, and it is a very short but very certain trip to the wall in between turns 2 and 3, and that's significant damage for Nerjak's car.
Well, there you go. Severe damage again for it. And Samir Foch was our leader of the race. Has also decided that he wants to come down at pit lane. That will promote Alex Rogers in the 119 up into the lead of the race. The 74 of Lai up into second. It's a long old way. And that is Dylan Tan. It's going to be close, but Dylan has got the run. So here you go. Pretty much exactly how much of a gap they had between each other. Just it's now Dylan's turn to try and fend off the Ferrari.
What a brilliant job. Dylan Tan came in early, got out in clean air. He must have known all race he had just a little extra than Samir Foss did. Timed that perfectly, came in a few laps earlier than Samir, and it just about worked. They are exactly in the mirrored positions of where they were all race long. Now, with the weight shifted to Samir, can Samir do anything to get by Dylan Tan as he almost goes up the back of him, but just about gets it stopped? It's the same fight, but the positions are reversed. Final 15 minutes. It's a shame other people are having a bit of a struggle today because they're missing a hell of a race up front.
15 minutes to go, and looking ahead, not much traffic for at least a couple of laps. It's going to be down to these two drivers to duke it out. Samir Foch, he knows that he needs all the points that he can get if he is going to win this championship. You've just got to keep that fry. But actually, that is looking like the McLaren's a little bit deep. Not to be, though. Uses the cutback, and you can get the drive off the corner. You can see just edging out that time. It's gonna come down incredibly close, I think. Once this Ferrari gets back up to its full temperatures and race pace, it's gonna be one hell of a battle.
Well, we say it every week, wherever you are in the world, we do appreciate you being with us and spending a little bit of your Saturday evening with us. Certainly, it's been entertaining tonight. I think we can all agree. Jamie in chat says, I've never seen so many overtakes attempts in the corkscrew. Very few have succeeded. Yeah, there's always going to be a low conversion rate, Jamie, I'm afraid to say. And hello to S. Clark, who's joining us. Clark, you've joined us at the correct time.
Correct time, yes, to watch 14 minutes of these two try and duke it out. And speaking of that traffic that I thought, and there you go, actually. I was going to say that might play into it, but the BMW peels off to the pit lane. For Dylan, that will just be an absolute sigh of relief, back to clean air running once again. And what's happened to the 732 of Ryan Renoir? Coming into the final corner, it's a touch from the Mercedes again, which these
so
two
aggressive.
These two have been having, the battle of their lives as well. And still, Ryan is trying to get by Fantozzi in 71. That's the AM class leader, as the Baker in front, who's just up ahead on the road, is still yet to pit.
So I've just been told by our steward Alpha that you'll notice the 96 has a stop and go 30. I've just been told that Ali doesn't have a pit limiter in that car, and that's why they've sped in pit lane. So they had no way of electronically limiting that car in pit lane, and they must have just went a little bit over. But ACC doesn't care how much over you are, get a stop and go 30. So that's a frustrating race for Muhammad Ali in the 96 BMW. It could have been a great day for them, but I think it's going to be a little bit of a wet blanket on their run so far. Ted Edwards looking back at Martin's here in the 62 Honda, one of the very few Hondas we have in the series. Ted's had some frustrating laps out there, but now looks like he's spinning quite well. By the way, that's Estefado right behind him.
Yeah, this is a three-way battle that is heating up a lot. Estefado really trying to close in on the Honda and, in on Ted Edwards. Ted has that 5-second penalty, but I think, if anything, it looks like Martins wants to get away from the math man in the McLaren behind. You want to get away from it because those two are class positions. Ted Edwards is a pro car, will not affect classes. But yeah, the Honda, not a car that we often see. It is sort of in its home in the IGTC tracks, though. It'll be interesting for the future for those cars because they've kind of been legacied, but Kunos have been given a little bit more freedom with the BOP to do something with them for cars that don't run anymore. So interesting to see what the future brings for cars like the Honda, the Nissan, the others.
Oh, he taps Fantozzi. I think that's Fantozzi. Oh my goodness. Absolute chaos in the corkscrew there. That was Fantozzi that got sent a little bit there.
It almost looked like the Lamborghini just locked up, and here comes the Mercedes.
Oh,
there was just I'm gonna call Magazi Moses there. He parted the cars, and just there was a very much a Mercedes shaped gap. Went for it, and yet these are still nose to tail. Just massive moments like that.
That does nothing for your confidence if you're having to race. If you're having to race Magazi or Renoir, all of those things that you just experienced doesn't help your confidence when racing them. But unfortunately, you still have to.
Still have to, and you do still sometimes just I think this is kind of the desperate times now. I think a lot of drivers are looking at the times and realizing they have not got many laps to make a move. Obviously, the places that you can overtake at Laguna Seca safely are few and far between, and especially if the driver in front knows how to defend. And considering this train has been this formation now for quite a number of laps, obviously they do. It's gonna come down to a mistake or something absolutely heroic.
Leader of the race in Alex Rogers pits in his 119. That will hand the lead over to Dylan Tan. And Tamir Foch, by the way, has not fallen off the back of the 141. The 888 still very much there as Rogers will complete his service. Oh, a car backwards there. That's the 533 again. And Sir Williams, a day that started out with so much promise. It's gone downhill, and it's only gotten worse. And I see the 812 hit the curb and collected the 533. Sir Williams is going to need a very, very tall frosty drink after this one.
Very much so. Just one of those days that was not, the stars were not in your favor. Magazi, the 34, this battle is still raging on every single time. I think now that they've learned, the corkscrew is maybe not positioned for it. It looks like they've kind of gone into single line for that now. But what can you do as Magazi in this situation? You would think that the Mercedes used to be an absolute powerhouse in a straight line, but the 2020 version got that kind of taken off of it. So you're down into the cornering and battling a Lamborghini driver who is a well-known Lamborghini driver. That's going to be very, very hard.
It sure is, and, well, it wouldn't be a night owl race with Ryan Mawson and Jesse Lee if we didn't have tales from the pit lane. We have an answer for what happened to D. Lewis in the 140 car. He chimes in chat, gutted my pedals were only giving 80% throttle, so I pulled over to reset it. Then I lost force feedback with the 140 car, had to retire, mechanical issues. There's a lot of things that sort of can accept that go wrong in racing. Probably the most frustrating of them all, Ryan, mechanical issues, completely out of your control.
Oh yeah, if it's something that you could have done nothing about, that is the worst feeling. And pedals are, people say that, oh, sim racing, nothing breaks, and everything just everything works. You don't have the mechanical failures like real racing does. I beg to differ. We have seen plenty of people wheel disconnects, pedal failures, force feedback issues, all kind of screen failures, PCs died, all kinds of things. And what has happened to that is Ted Edwards? I see
He's
his
being
background
lapped is what's
car.
happening,
Hey,
yeah.
there you go. I actually thought that for a moment there. I was like, "There's another Mercedes joined into this battle. Has there been another accident?" No, it's just Ted letting everyone by, thinking, "You know what? I don't want to be part of this four wide battle for essentially what is ninth place. He's just gonna do the smart thing and let everyone go."
Well, let's reset the race for you. Dylan Tan leading in the 141, and he has Samir Foch all over him. That's the reverse of the way it was for the majority of this race. Dylan Tan executed an excellent pit strategy by being the first of the two on pit lane and got just about enough to get in front of Foch, but they are still nose to tail. Jaroslav Roth, who's running in third, still to pit. That should promote Rogers up into third place, and Raphael Huell in the 548 having an adventure here. Now that is very strange indeed, and a very scary place to be stopped, but gets it going in the right direction, makes the smart maneuver for Huell, and nearly loses it again, but gets the car going. Fantozzi has led the majority of the race in AM, which, by the way, isn't actually AM. It's silver, even though it shows up as AM and we introduced it as AM. It's not really AM. It is a bit frustrating, yes. Baker in second place and Martins in third in that class. And how incredibly topsy-turvy has what we're calling the AM class, which really isn't an AM class. They've been all over the place today.
Yeah, and still, they're trying to hold off this battle, right to the end as well. But a great race for Fantozzi, I'd say. Not necessarily the car that I would have picked to lead the AM/silver class, but here we are coming towards the end. Oh, and this might be a move for Timothy Flamger. The Mercedes is off. They have lost the speed, lost the momentum. The number 19 is going to be up the inside of the corkscrew, going too wide. The space was given, and they do actually make it through there.
Only just, and only make it through there if there's a little cooperation. I feel like there was just enough given there to make that work. Savalainen is still sixth place. They've been there for quite some time. They've made up a ton of progress. They were 23rd, mind you, after the crash, which was actually technically two separate incidents now that I think about it. But they have recovered nicely, and though they won't be setting the points on fire today, if they can hold on the fastest lap here, they'll get one additional point to their total, and that will minimize the damage done today. But also, if Savalainen can get this spot, get back in the top five, it'll do more of the same. But Jaroslav Roth not playing particularly friendly here, as you would expect, coming to the checkered flag. And it's going to be a left-right maneuver. Savalainen's going to get it, though, even though Roth protested as much as he possibly could have done. Excellent racing there as Savalainen takes fifth. And how important could that be in the long run?
Yeah, and what a comeback maneuver 1-2. And this is an absolute accordion effect at the top of the corkscrew. What has happened here? Tassopoulos going slow. I'm guessing that BMW's had a prior incident that we saw off camera. Cuts in front, happens to tap the Ferrari, and everyone just bunches up.
Ooh, yeah, it's textbook accordion effect. If you ever hear broadcasters talk about that in racing, that's exactly what that was. There's just no real way to avoid it in a corner that effectively has one racing line, a couple of laps left to go, and this pack, even with the contact, still all together. Renoir trying to complete his recovery drive as well. A couple of more positions for Ryan would do nicely, but of course he has the 5-second penalty. Fantozzi, who's done just a fantastic job in the lower of the two classes today, is leading this group. He doesn't have to stop or pull over or anything of the sort. That he can defend his position. Oh no! Samir Foch has lost it by himself! What on earth has happened to Samir Foch here?
What has happened to the 888 indeed? We're coming out. This is out of turn 2. And he touches a wheel onto the gravel in the braking zone.
Oh, Samir Foch. The spin that absolutely ruined what had been just about a perfect race from the man in the 888. Dylan Tan would have saw that. He would have saw the local yellow, and he will have known that his only competitor today has blinked first effectively. It took nearly the full hour, but it finally happened as a massive gap emerges for first, but absolutely no gap for this gaggle.
This is 7th down to
they're
almost 12th, and there you go. Timothy Flamger deep on the brakes in the 19 McLaren, all the way out, manages to keep it on. The flashing of the lights from Fantozzi as well. I do not believe he's very, very approving of some of these maneuvers that have been pulled. A double, I think Mike Jones would call that a double bonk, actually.
Oh dear, we almost made it a full broadcast without a bonk, but we didn't. But Fantozzi there might have gotten passed around a little bit there by some of the pro field, but no major harm done. I don't think the students will appreciate the contact in that way that led to a position change. But for Fantozzi, the bigger picture is they are several seconds up the road from Baker, and it's looking like a win for them in AM today. The same thing for Dylan Tan, but in pro. And give a call to Alex Rogers, who has just run a pretty perfect race as well. Been able to pick up a lot of the pieces, more contact maybe, and a position change through the corkscrew. Oh, he came back and got it, did Fantozzi.
Fantozzi decided that, if you're going to pass me around, I will pass you around, and I'm going to take that place back that I'm rightfully owed. But it will be this man. It will be Dylan Tan coming under the checkered flag. What a race for this McLaren. What a race for the 141.
People would have been wondering after week 1, was it a fluke? Could Dylan Tan do it again? The answer is an emphatic yes, he can, as he wins race 2. Samir Foch comes home in second place. He needed a good race, and he's got it here. And of course, Alex Rogers, the final step of the podium in the 119 Aston. What a race by Alex Rogers. Wasn't quite in the running for the win, but still gets a podium. And of course, Javier Lai in the 74 comes home a brilliant 4th. And Judah Savalainen, the frustration from the driver for the 100 AMG. You must know that he's frustrated with himself a little bit, but still 5th with the fastest lap will do nicely for the points. Jaroslav Roth comes home in 6th place. Tassopoulos, Renoir, Fantozzi, and Flamger will be your top 10, but I'm not sure they're going to officially be in that order because of a couple of 5-second penalties.
Oh, as everyone comes across the line, it will be Fantozzi in the 71 who will win the AM class, though. A great drive from them. Baker will come across the line second in the AM. And like I said, I think there will be a little bit of a shuffle up as we finish. Timetables will approve. That will be your final results.
There it is. Fantozzi wins in AM, which isn't AM, mind you. Baker in second place, and Martins in the Honda in third place in the lower class. I think going forward, we'll call it that, right? I think we'll just call it the lower class. But despite that, it's just a crazy day in the lower class, and what an amazing win from Fantozzi, and way to hang on for Baker as well. And Martin's getting it done for third place. But Dylan Tan, two in a row. Excellent drive. He's put everybody in Night Owl on notice now.
And you've just got to think, for Savalainen, this is very much a race of what could it have been, the what if, but and nobody was safe from those mistakes. Nobody was safe from the sausage curbs, and he'll be going away from this race, I'm sure, taking that into account. And I think that we're going to see that 100 with little bit more fury, perhaps, at the next race.
Well, it's an absolute shakeup in the lower class as we go into round number three. And, well, that's been our first broadcast of Night Owl, and I think it absolutely lived up to the hype. Just before we go, we invite you to like, subscribe, hit the bell for more GT racing content. The Ryan and Ryan Show will be back with you on Monday. I'll be with you on Thursday for the beginning of the new GT4 season. It'll be Mike Jones and myself with you on Friday, and we'll be back here with you next Saturday for round three of the Night Owl Championship. And of course, a big thank you to our partners that make this race and every race possible. RaceDepartment.com, your source of sim racing news and sim mods. AK Informatica for providing our servers. Driver61. You can use our discount code, driver61.com, get 25% off your driver coaching. A lot of us here have used it, and it certainly can make you a better and faster driver. Use our discount code, driver61, link in the description. Fanatec.com, feel free to use our affiliate link when making purchases at fanatec.com. Of course, they just launched the new Gran Turismo DD over there, and I heard that there's also a deal on that as well, that you can get all of that through our affiliate link. SimRacing.gp, an excellent way to do league racing. If you're tired of the pub lobby scene, simracing.gp. It's free to sign up and use. Join a community, get started today. Ryan Mawson, what an incredible race. I was afraid that it was going to be a melee. It might as well have been today, but a couple of deserving winners in class. And of course, like always, we're none the wiser. Can't wait for race.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, this season really has just been so action packed. I've finally been able to take a breath. We didn't have a dull moment all race season. The next round, all really to play for. The points battle in the pros is just all over the place, and I think that's going to make it a lot more interesting towards the end of the season. Sometimes you get it where it's crowned so early on. Don't think this series is going to be like that.
I absolutely agree. Well, folks, that's going to do it from us this weekend. We will see you on Monday. I won't see you, but the Ryan and Ryan show will see you on Monday. Like, subscribe, do all the things. Until then, have a good night.
And we'll see you next week.